Hi everyone, welcome back to ladensercrotchets. In this tutorial, we're making this awesome chain halter dress that I hope you're going to enjoy making. If you do not forget to like, comment and share, and subscribe if you're not subscribed in order to join the family. If you want to get notified every time I upload a tutorial, click on the notification bell. I'm using the following materials: medium weight yarn. This is a Kenyan brand called Winter King, and this can be replaced with any medium weight yarn. This is an acrylic yarn. You could use acrylic or cotton, whatever yarn is available to you. And then I'll be using a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need at least 2 stitch markers, a tapestry needle, tape measure, and you'll also need a pair of scissors. So I'll just get my pair of scissors right here. So get these materials and let's get into the tutorial. The measurements that you're going to need are, the first one will be the waist measurement, and I'm working a waist of 26. So you'll take the 26 and add 2 inches to get you to 28. So whatever waist measurement you have, you add 2. So mine will be 28, and then I'll divide it by 2. When I divide the waist measurement by 2, I'll get to 14. So my starting chain will be an equivalent of 14 when my chain is slightly stretched, and that represents the waist of the dress. Then you're going to need the hip measurement, and I'm working a hip measurement of 38, which again I'm going to add 2 inches to get me to 40, and then divide it by 2, and that will be 20. So that means I'm going to increase from the waist till I get to 20 inches in order to achieve the hip measurement. So with the hook and the yarn, we begin with a slip knot. And then I'll chain 40. The chain that you're going to make should be something that you can divide by 10 or a multiple of 10. For a size small, I'm going to start with a chain of 40. If you're a size medium, you could start with a chain of 50. If you're large, go to 60. If you're extra large, 70 will be okay for you. So I'm going to do 40 chains. So I have my 40 chains, and I'm just going to measure this to see where it gets me to. It should be something that is close to 14. It doesn't exactly have to be 14. It could be 13, it could be 15. So when I measure this while stretching, it gets me to around 14 inches, which is exactly what I'm working with. If you're working with 30 and you've divided it by 2, if you give it a bigger stretch, it will get you to 15. And that is why I mentioned that for a size small, 40 inches will be okay. Because when you slightly stretch it, it goes to 13. When you give it a slightly bigger stretch, it goes to 14. When you stretch it out completely, it goes to 15. And that means this can fit someone with a waist of 26, 28, and 30. After the 40 chains, we're going to add 1 more chain to get us to 41. Then we're going to hold the 41st chain and chain 3 more. And this chain 3 acts as our first double crochet. Then you yarn over and go into that chain that you're holding and place a double crochet. Now this increases our stitches by 2. So if you started with 40, the number of stitches that you're going to have will be 42. If you started with 50, your stitches will be 52. So those are 2 double crochets. Then you're going to yarn over, place the hook into the next chain, yarn over, grab a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through the remaining 2 for that double crochet. Then place a double crochet into the next stitch, yarn over, put your hook into the chain, grab a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then keep going with the 1 double crochet into every chain. At the end, you should have the multiple of 10 stitches plus 2. So that is 42, 52, 62, 72, and so on. So just 1 double crochet into every stitch. So I just placed my last double crochet into the last stitch, and I have a total of 42 double crochets. Next, chain 1 and turn to begin row 2. We begin row 2 in this very first stitch with a single crochet, then into the next stitch a single crochet, that is, put your hook into that stitch, yarn over, grab a loop, you'll get 2 loops on the hook, then yarn over and pull through the 2 loops. Next, we're going to chain 8, 8. After the 8 chains, we're going to count 8 stitches, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, then put our hook into the 9th and do a single crochet, then a single crochet into the next stitch for a total of 2 single crochets, then chain 8 again, skip 8 stitches and work in the 9th stitch, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Into the 9th, place a single crochet and a single crochet into the 10th, then chain 8 again, skip 8 stitches and work in the 9th, work a single crochet, then another single crochet. At this point you should have 10 stitches remaining, so you're going to chain 8. Now if you started with 40 chains, you'll have 10 stitches remaining. If you started with 50, you'll have 20, so you'll have to chain 8. And then, because I'm in the end, I'm going to place 2 single crochets into the last 2 stitches. So this is the second last stitch right here. Place a single crochet into it, then a single crochet on top of the chain 3 stitch that you started with for row 1, like that, and row 2 is done. We're going to chain 1 and turn to begin row 3. For row 3, we begin with a single crochet in the first stitch, a single crochet into the second stitch, chain 8, then work in the single crochets. So 2 single crochets in the 2 single crochets that we have from the previous row, and that is what we're going to have. Then you're going to chain 8 again, skip over to the single crochets and place 1 single crochet into each of the 2 single crochets, chain 8, skip over to the single crochets and place a single crochet, 1 into each stitch, chain 8, then place a single crochet into the previous single crochets at the end. That's row 3 done. We're going to work row 4 differently with an increase, because we want to increase in order to hit the hip measurements. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 4. Begin row 4 in the first stitch, and into this very first stitch we're going to place 2 single crochets, so 1 and 2. Into the next single crochet we're not going to work any stitch, but then we are going to increase the number of chains from 8 to 9. So now chain 9, then work in the next single crochets into both of them, again chain 9, skip over to the single crochets and place 1 single crochet into each of them, chain 9, then skip to the next single crochet and the next. When you get to the last chain, you're going to chain 9, then after chaining 9, we're not going to work into this very first single crochet. We'll skip over to the last one, and into that last single crochet place 2 single crochets for that increase at the end. Then that's the end of row 4. Chain 1 and turn to begin row 5. Row 5 will not be an increase row, so we begin in the first stitch with a single crochet, the next stitch with a single crochet. We previously chained 9, and because we're not increasing, we are still chaining 9 for row 5. So chain 9, skip over to the single crochets and work one single crochet into each of them. Chain 9, then single crochets where the previous single crochets were, chain 9, and repeat to the end. So at the end we'll have a single crochet, one into the single crochets at the end, one into each of them, 1 and 2. That's the end of row 5, which is a row that has no increase. Next we're going to work row 6, and row 6 is going to have an increase. We begin with a chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to start in the first stitch with 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Then we're going to chain 10. Then work single crochets in the middle where the previous single crochets were, 2 of them, chain 10. Skip over to the single crochets and work 2 of them, chain 10. Skip over to the next single crochets, then chain 10. And then for the last single crochets, we're going to work in the last stitch, and we're going to work 2 of them. That's row 6 done. Next we're going to do row 7 with no increase. So chain 1, turn, start with 2 single crochets, 1 into each of the 2 single crochets, so 1 and 2. And because we're not increasing, we are working the same number of chains that we did in the previous row, so chain 10. Then the single crochets and repeat to the end. Repeat the pattern to the end. Remember, at the end, because you're not increasing, each of the single crochets will get 2 single crochets. We'll get just 1 single crochet. So we're going to work a single crochet into this stitch and a single crochet into the last stitch. The chains are 10. That's row 7 done. We're going to work row 8 with an increase. So chain 1 and turn to begin row 8. Begin with a single crochet, 2 of them in the first stitch. Then we're going to chain 11. We had 10, so we add 1 to get to 11. Then work the next 2 single crochets, 1 stitch into each. That's 11 chains. Then the 2 single crochets, chain 11 again, work the 2 single crochets, chain 11, then you're going to work into the last stitch now and place 2 single crochets into that last stitch. And that's row 8 done. Row 9 is going to be a row with no increase, and so chain 1 and turn and work a single crochet in the first stitch, a single crochet into the next stitch, then 11 chains, and this is the pattern that you're going to repeat till you hit half of your hip measurement. I want to get to 20 right now. Let me show you where I am at. So this is how you measure your hip measurement from this end to the other end, and as you do that, you're going to give this a bit of a stretch. So when I give this a bit of a stretch, it's getting me to 14, and I want to get to 20. So I'll just keep increasing in alternate rows till I get to my 20. So you could, I'm at 11 chains. You could go up to 15, up to 17, up to 18, up to 20, depending on the size of your hips. So I'm chaining 11. And then 2 single crochets. So I'll just keep going till I get half of my hip measurement, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. This is what I have after how many rows? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I'm in my 18th row, and the chains in between are 15. To measure this, just place the measuring tape at the beginning at this point, and then without stretching, it's at 16. When I give this a stretch, it goes to 20 inches, which is half of the hip measurement that I'm working. Now from this point, we're going to work without increasing till we get the full length from the waist down to the point where you want your dress to get. So this one is like the skirt part at the back part of the dress, and that's why we're measuring from the waist down. So now we're going to chain 1 and begin the next row. So if you've not hit your hip measurement, just keep increasing the number of chains and also increasing at the beginning part. So chain 1 and turn, and then work a single crochet in the first stitch, in the second. Then my chains are 15, and I'm going to be working with 15 chains to the end. So 15 chains, then work the single crochets, 2 of them, then chain 15, then skip over to the single crochets and work the 2 single crochets, chain 15, work in the single crochets, chain 15, then work the 2 single crochets at the end. Chain 1 and turn to begin the next row, which is our row. That was 17. This is 17 or 19, whatever row it is. Begin with a single crochet and a single crochet into the next stitch, then chain 15. And then I'll just keep going until I get the full length. So these rows are the same to the end. Once you've gotten to your desired length for the back panel, you're just going to cut off the yarn, then you're going to chain 1 and pull this end that remains after cutting off the yarn. And there you're done with the back panel. I've done a total of 130 rows in order to get me to my full measurement from the waist to the bottom. And this is a length of 43 inches. So let me show you how to measure. Remember, when you're measuring, you don't stretch out your work. So I'll just get my measuring tape and do the measurement from the side, this part, from the top part right here. And without measuring, without stretching, that is getting me to 44. I mentioned that I wanted to work 43, and an extra 1 inch is not bad. It's quite okay. And therefore, after 130 rows, I have my back panel ready, and I'm ready to do the front panel. Now, to do the front panel, you consider the total number of stitches that you've ended with at the bottom. So like in my case, I have the chains are 15 chains each, so I have a total of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these 4 multiplied by 15, that will give me 60. As for the single crochets, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 multiplied by 2, that is 10. So I'll take the 60 that I've gotten here plus 10, and that will be 70. So 70 chains is 70 stitches is what I've ended with, and what I'm going to use to work the front panel. That will be my starting chain for the front panel, because now for the front panel we're going to work from bottom coming up. If you want to work this as a skirt, you can do 2 pieces of this completely the same and then join them. Now, the reason why I'm working from the bottom coming up for the front panel is because I'm working a halter dress. So, work this panel and join. Work another panel like this and join if you want a skirt. But if you want a dress, you can work like me from the bottom coming up. So what I'll do is, there's this stitch marker that I placed right here at the end of the increases, and this was after 18 rows. So I'll take 130 minus 18, and that will give me 120 rows. So that means the number of rows that I'm going to work from the bottom to this point where I have the stitch marker is 112. So do that for yours, and then we work the back panel. For my back panel, I'm going to start with 70 chains, and I'll start with a slip knot. We are working the front panel from the bottom up. So that's why we've counted the number of stitches that we had in the back panel. So start with my 70 chains, or whatever number of chains you have at the end of your back panel. So that's 1. Once I get my 70 chains, I'm going to chain 1 more while holding the last stitch, this one right here. Chain 1 more, then go into that stitch that I'm holding and place a single crochet, then place a single crochet into the next stitch, and then chain 15. So I'm chaining 15 because my last chains were 15. If yours were 20, you're going to chain 20. If they were 17, you'll chain 17. If they were 18, you'll chain 18. So you're chaining that number of chains that you had at the end of the back panel. So then after that, I'm going to count the number of chains that I've done, which is 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Then into the 16th stitch. That's why I'll put my hook through and do a single crochet, then a single crochet into the next chain, then chain 15 again, then skip 15 stitches, that's 10. We have 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 into the 16th stitch, place a single crochet and a single crochet next, chain 15, this is the last chain, the last 15 chains, and therefore I have 17 stitches remaining. So I'll just skip and work single crochets in the last 2 chains, 1 single crochet into the second last and 1 single crochet in the last chain. And that's my row 1 done. So then we're going to chain 1 and turn to begin the next row, and this is going to be standard. All the rows will have 15 chains. So start with a single crochet into the next stitch, then the 15 chains, or 20 or 17, whatever number of chains you're working. Mine are 15. Then we're going to have the single crochets, then chain 15, followed by the 2 single crochets, chain 15, then we're going to have 2 single crochets next, chain 15, then work the last 2 single crochets at the end. Chain 1 and turn to begin the next row, and the next row is going to be worked like the previous row, just starting with a single crochet into the next chain, then chain 15. And I'm going to keep going with these rows till I get the total number of rows that I have from the stitch marker on the back panel to the bottom. So let me do that and I'll show you exactly what I mean. This right here is after 112 rows of the front panel, and I'm ready to reduce in order to get to the waist measurement. And so let me show you. So this is the back panel. When you place them side by side, like this, or one on top of the other, now it means that we have this part to work, not this one. When I place them on top of the other, this is what I'm going to have. This is a back panel and this is a front panel, and therefore that means I'll need to reduce the front panel in order to get to the waist measurements. Just like for the back we had increased because we worked from the top. For the front panel we are decreasing because we worked from the bottom. So now I'm going to work 113 with a reduction. My chains are 15, so depending on the number of chains that you have, you'll just subtract 1 for the first reduction in the chains. So that means previously I had 15 chains. For this next row, I'll be doing 14. So I'm chaining 1 and turning to begin row 113. Then I'll begin with the 2 single crochets and now chain 14. Then skip over to the single crochets and do the 2 single crochets. Chain 14 next. Then the 2 single crochets and repeat to the end. I'm at the end of row 114, so I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Because we've reduced in that row, the row that follows will have no reduction, so the chains will be 14. And I'll do this row 114th, my 114th row, then I'll be back so that we can do the next reduction. At the end, chain 1 and turn to begin row 115, and row 115 is going to be a reduction row. So our chains previously were 14, they're going to be 13. So start with the 2 single crochets, then chain 13. Then move over to the single crochets. So this row is going to have the 13 chains. The next row will have 13. The one that follows will have 12, then 12 again, then 11, 11, 10, 10, 9, 9, then 8, 8. I'll stop once I have 8 chains in between, because I'd started with the 8 chains on the top part of the back panel. So stop once you get to the chains that you started with, to the 8 chains, because we all started with the 8 chains. I'm done with the reduction and done with the 130 rows, and that gets me to this point before the double crochet row. Now for this double crochet, I'll not do a double crochet row. Instead, I'll do 2 rows with the chains, 2 more rows in order to get to the top part. So I'll just chain 1 and turn. Start with 2 single crochets in the one in the first stitch and the second one in the second stitch. So 1 and 2. Then I'll chain 8. Work the 2 single crochets. Chain 8. Work the 2 single crochets. Chain 8. Chain 1 and turn and work the last row with the chains. Once you're done with those last 2 rows, you're going to chain 1 and then cut off the yarn. We're going to attach the 2 parts to form a skirt before we work the top part in order to get to a dress. So cut the yarn, then pull through and fasten. And we're going to have the 2 pieces side by side with the right sides facing each other. So get the front one, place it with your right side facing. So this is the right side, this is the wrong side. Then we're going to have the other one on top. This is the wrong side, right side. So the 2 right sides should face each other. And now we're going to connect the 2 pieces from the bottom part. So from this point, in the first row, in the first single crochet of the first row, and the first single crochet of, you can call it the first or the bottom row like this. Then grab your yarn, then reattach the yarn like this, and chain 1. Then put your hook back into that first row and do a single crochet into the second row and the corresponding row on the other side. Join with a single crochet into the third, and the third on the other side, join with a single crochet. Then the fourth and the fourth row on the other side. Do a single crochet and continue working the single crochets while joining the corresponding rows till you get to the upper part of the skirt, or till you get to the waist. When you get to the double crochet row, that row should get 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet on the second last single crochet on the other side. Then the last single crochet will be aligned with the last single crochet on the other side. Then you're going to chain 1 and cut that yarn because you're done with joining that side. So after joining, this is what we have. This is the wrong side and this is the right side. So then we're going to go to the other side of the skirt and join it too, beginning from the bottom in the very last row or the very first row, and the other row on the other side. So you put your hook through the first and the first on the other side, then grab your yarn and attach it right there. Then chain 1. You could work over the tails as you go over the ends, these ends, or you can first attach and then you can work over them at the once you're done. You can weave them in once you're done. So I've just chained 1. I'll go back into those 2 stitches and do a single crochet. Then in the next row and the next row on the other side, attach with a single crochet, and then keep going till you get to the top part. I've done a total of 25 rows and I feel like this length is enough for my strap. So I'm just going to chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. That strap is done. Then pull through, fasten, do a knot on that end and ensure that the knot is very close to the stitches. Then cut the end that remains, but don't cut it too close to the knot. Just like that. One strap is attached. So we're going to go to the other side. On the inside part, start with a slip knot, reattach the yarn on the first single crochet on this side, this one right here, reattach the yarn and chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. That's our first double crochet. Place a double crochet into the other single crochet, then chain 3, double crochet in between, chain 3, double crochet. Continue till you have 25 rows or whatever number of rows you've worked on the other strap. So the 2 panels are joined together and we have our skirt. It's a maxi skirt. So these can be worn like this, or you can proceed and do the upper parts in order to create a halter dress. So I'm just going to turn this to the right side. And then remember, the part that has the double crochet is the back part. The part that only has chains is the front part. And what we're going to do is count 10 stitches from the middle part right here. Here we're going to have 2 single crochets, and therefore I'll start counting from here. I'll count 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Then mark that 10th stitch. Then again move to the other side and count 10 stitches. We are counting from the point where we've joined, and we are counting on the back part, the part that has the double crochets. So I'm marking the 10th stitch on that other side. Then you want to turn your work from the side that you're going to work from, and I'm going to work from the back part on the inside part. We are working the halter top in order to create this into a dress. So now from this point, I'm going to reattach the yarn on this stitch marker. So start with a slip knot, Then put the hook in that stitch where the stitch marker is and pull out that stitch marker so that we can reattach the yarn. I'll do that in between the stitches. So in between the 10th and the 11th stitch, that is where I've reattached the yarn. Then I'll chain 1 and go back into that stitch with a single crochet. And then in the next stitch, in the gap between the 2 double crochets, I'll place another single crochet. Then chain 8. Then I'm going to skip over to the middle part, and in the middle part I'll do 2 single crochets in the stitches that are right there. So we have this, and we have the stitch on this side, do a single crochet, and the stitch on the other side, a single crochet for the 2 single crochets. And that gets us to the front part where we're going to chain 8. Then skip over to the single crochets, do 2 single crochets, chain 8, then 2 single crochets where we had the previous 2 single crochets, chain 8, place your 2 single crochets, chain 8. That takes you to the middle part or the joining part where we have a single crochet on one side. We place a single crochet on one side of the middle of the joining, and a single crochet on the other side of the joining, like that. Then we're going to chain 8. Then that takes us to the stitch before the stitch marker. So in between right here, place a single crochet and a single crochet in between the other 2 double crochets, and we do not need the stitch marker anymore. That's our first row of the top part of the dress. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn. Start with a single crochet and a second single crochet, then chain 8, work the single crochets, chain 8, work the single crochets, chain 8, then work the single crochets next, chain 8, single crochets, chain 8, work the next single crochets, chain 8. Then you're going to have your last single crochets at the point where you joined the yarn, the last 2 single crochets right there. That's row 2 done. We're going to chain 1 and turn to begin row 3. And row 3 we're going to work it the same way we worked row 2, and you're going to work a total of 10 rows. So I'll work 10 rows and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. So your 10 rows, you're working them without increasing or decreasing. I've done a total of 26 rows instead of 10 like I had mentioned, and I've done this in order to achieve the top length. Top length is measured from the waist to up to above your bust, and mine is 13. So that means when I measure this while I'm stretching a little bit, it's getting me to 14, and I wanted 13, but I can work with 14. So the length that you're going to work here will depend on your top length. Measure the top length from the top of your bust to your waist. And now at this point, we are done with the dress. So this is the back part of the dress, and this part here is the front part. Now we're going to do a chain on this side and another chain on the other side, which will be the strap that we'll use to to tie the dress on top of your shoulders. So start by chaining 3 and then turn. That's our first double crochet. Then you're going to yarn over and place a double crochet into the next single crochet. Then you're going to chain 3, go in between the 2 double crochets and place a double crochet right there. Chain 3, in between the 2 double crochets that you have, place a double crochet. Chain 3, do a double crochet in between, and keep going till you get the strap length. The strap does not have to be too long because it's just for tying around the neck. So let me do my chain, then I'll tell you how many rows I'll have done to achieve my strap. At the end, chain 1, cut off the yarn, pull through, fasten, knot, and cut the remaining end. And now at this point, we are done with the dress, and you can go on weaving the ends that you have hanging around, and then you'll be done. So thank you so much if you've stuck around to the end of this tutorial. If you've enjoyed it, you know what to do. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and if you're not subscribed, kindly subscribe and join the family, and see you in the next tutorial. Bye.